So you're either in the process of making a movie or you're just interested in editing, but either way, I wanted to put this together and hopefully this will empower you to go out and make your film knowing that it's easier to edit than you may have thought. So let's jump into a little bit of beginner basics for Premiere Pro. Let's get started. So today I have Premiere Pro up, and so this is the newest update as of the recording of this. So keep in mind that some of these programs change where buttons are and things throughout the process. So if this is not what you have at the moment, feel free to drop a comment down in the bottom and I will do what I can to help. So today we're gonna go through just the basics. So if you are already a beginner editor and you know how to do, this may not be the right video for you. So feel free to move along to something else. But if you're like, I don't even know what I'm doing, I don't know where to start, that's where I'm hoping this is the video for you. Let's jump into it. So we have Premiere open, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start a new project. You have a lot of different ways that you can do this. So we have the new project here, or we have file and new project. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through the long form of where all the things are, because like I said, Premiere changes from time to time and it makes it a little confusing. The one thing that I've noticed over the 15 years of doing this, that they really don't ever change where the buttons are up in those top kind of categories in the file. So we're gonna go through that. So we're gonna go file, new, project, and let's get started. So today, I'm just going to call this Bronson Test Edit. And then I need to find a place to put it. So I'm going to go to choose location and I'm going to find that place to put it. So inside of my drive, I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to my YouTube, experimental film. That's what we're going to do today. And I'm going to do a Bronson Test Edit and select. And then I'm going to leave the template at none and I'm going to press create. So with that up, now it opens up another thing that we can look for our footage and whatever you want to start editing. Once again, I'm going to skip these things and I'm going to show you the long form so that way you can feel empowered no matter what editor you are on or what version you're on. So let's go ahead and skip. So this is our whole layout for Premiere. Up here in the top, we have a couple of different places that we can look. So we have our program, we have our timeline, and then we're gonna have our project. Before we even start though, I'm gonna go ahead and take us into editing and make sure you're there. So make sure you're in editing. If you're doing this for the first time, you might be in the learning tab. And so the learning tab, there aren't as many tools and you may be missing some of the buttons. So I'll urge you to go to the editing tab and let's take that full screen so it's not distracting us. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make a couple of things. We can import our video into our project folder, and then we also have our timeline. Our timeline is where we're going to do all of our editing. So we can press import here, or we can come up to file and we can go to import, or you can go to the import tab. I'm going to do just the standard import and go to the folder where all my things are. My footage here was shot on an FS7, and so this is in XD root, which is the file structure. You might have something different, but make sure that you're staying organized. One of the most important things when you're starting out is organization. If that's something that you're having trouble with, I would work on it now of trying to figure out how to get it more organized. The more organized you are, the easier the process becomes. I tell this to every student whenever we're first starting out, is the more organization you have at the beginning, the easier it becomes at the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to import this folder. It's going to import and it's going to say that some things failed. Inside of most folder structures for cinema cameras or cameras that are in those kind of formats that are not going to be a .mov like your phone, you're going to have a bunch of XMLs, you're going to have a bunch of text documents, you're going to have a bunch of things in there that Premiere cannot read. So we can just go ahead and pass that. We're going to press OK. So now when we open this up, if we go into the clip, now all of our footage is there. So if I double click on one of those, it's going to pop up over here into my source. My source is where I can watch everything. My program is where I'm watching my edit. So we need to make a timeline. So what I can do is I'm going to go up here. I'm going to go File, New, Sequence. Now that I have a sequence here, I'm going to put Timeline. The reason I want to do this is if I don't give it a name, whenever it opens up with whatever is put on there, it's going to end up having this long string of numbers. So A066C002, that's what the camera came up with whenever it was being recorded. And we want to be able to make sure that we can find it. Once again, organization, organization, organization. For the time being, don't worry about any of these presets, just press OK. I'm going to show you how to change that in just 2 seconds. So now I have a timeline. I know it says timeline. But it's in my clip folder. So if I go away, it's going to disappear. So I'm just going to drag this over to the left and get this out of that folder. Now if I close it, it's going to be right here. I want to make sure that it's easy for me to see. Now I can just take out of my source and I'm going to drag it down on my timeline. And this is something nice with new editors that are going to ask you, is this something you want to do, and do you want to change the settings to what it's going to be? I don't want to keep my existing settings because those were just the default that was applied whenever I made the timeline. So make sure it says always ask. We want to be sure that we're having that question, and then I'm going to press change sequence settings. So now if I wanted to go into here, I could make sure that it's in there. So I have a 24 frame per second sequence, which was how my footage was shot, and 4096 by 2160, which was my 4K resolution that I had. So everything's good to go. So from here, this is something that I wish somebody would have told me whenever I first started editing, is you really only need 2 buttons. If you're just starting up, you need 2 buttons. You're gonna need your blade and you're gonna need your arrow. That's really all you're gonna need. And then you're just gonna be able to zoom in and out. So if I drag my playhead, which is this blue line over the top of it, everything's going to start moving. So you can see me moving. These are just some footage that I've made for an experimental film that I'm doing that is actually maybe going to turn into a very fast, low budget feature. And so with that being said, I'm gonna start recording some videos of that and we'll just kind of see where it goes. But it kind of came out of nowhere and I'm feeling inspired. So now that we're in here, we can move everything around. So when I'm on the arrow, I'll be able to move left and right. When I'm on the blade, I can start cutting things. You'll see that everything's connected here. So if I cut one thing, it's gonna cut everything. If you don't wanna do that, you could lock the track, and now I can't cut the footage, but I can come down here and I can cut the audio. If I wanted to make a mistake, or if I made a mistake and I wanna back up, I can go to edit and undo, and that will undo those things. Once again, this is just like whenever I'm working with new students, I don't really teach shortcuts because every shortcut can be changed, and I don't want you to get on a computer that somebody changed a shortcut and then you're completely lost. That's not beneficial for you. If you want to know the shortcuts, here is the shortcut, I guess. So if I go up here, you're gonna see next to them what I have right here. So this is my shortcut. So if I go to edit and undo, you'll see that it's going to be Command and Z. I'm on a Mac today. If you're on a PC, it will be a little bit different button structure depending on what your keyboard is set up to. But if you hover over these buttons, it's also going to tell you what the shortcuts are. My shortcuts are set up for Final Cut Pro 2 from like 2010 when I started editing. I started on Final Cut. I've went to Premiere, now I do a lot of things in DaVinci, and one of the things that I kept along the way were just my shortcuts because it was the first thing I laid it on. If you want a tutorial on how to set up your own shortcuts, just drop a comment below and I'll make a quick video. It's very easy and you can set it to whatever you want. So now that I have here, I can start moving things around. So one of the things that I would urge you to do as you're starting to edit, let's get out of this sound over here. Let's close this sound one so I can see more of my footage. Whenever I'm moving around, I like to use multiple layers. And the reason that I suggest that is because right now you can see that my audio is butting into my other audio. So if I take these and I highlight and move everything down, let me undo that. Let's say I want to delete that audio. Now I can lock this track and delete at the bottom, and now everything's gone. Now that I'm on 2 tracks, if I decide that I want this footage to be on top of this footage, I don't have to delete the stuff that's underneath. Premiere works on a hierarchy structure. Whatever's on top is going to get seen. So as you keep going up, to my knowledge, I think it's still 99 tracks of each, audio and video, so you can make a lot of different tracks and you can move things around. Now that I have all of these things here, I'm gonna be able to move them around. So I'm gonna go over here. Let's go back into my clips. And if you wanted to change the names of these clips, you can. So if I just click on this once after I have it highlighted, I could say interior house look onto yard. I didn't use a slate or anything. These were all tests. If you have the slate, another thing to do is just do the scene, the take number, and all that kind of thing. And now you'll be able to go back in and be like, okay, I need to have shot 2 from my sequence. I need to look at that again, and I can look over here, and I don't have to look through this string of numbers. Once again, organization, organization, organization. When it's just you looking at it, it's fine. But eventually you may have an editor. Eventually you may have somebody that's partnering up with you to help you with your projects. And it gets very, very difficult to understand where everything's at if we're not very organized. So now that we have that there, you'll see I have interior house, look onto yard. Now I can move all that around. So I'm gonna get rid of this track here, and I'm just gonna go see what else I have in here. So these are for an experimental film, and so some of the shots are a little strange and kind of abstract. But now what I have, say that I want to keep this shot, but I only want to keep from where my playhead is to around here. What I can do is I can set in and out points. So if you hover down here on your buttons here, mark in and mark out, this is an alternative to dragging the whole clip onto your timeline and then editing it from there. So say that I like this is my starting point. I'm gonna mark it in. I'm gonna press space bar, which once again is another way to press play. Every button in Premiere, you can do it about 100 different ways. So just get into what your practice and your flow is. If you like clicking buttons, click the buttons. If not, press the space bar. So I'm gonna press out. And now that we know what that is, you'll see mark out is O. And so if I press O on my keyboard, it auto calibrates to where my playhead is. And now I just want to get the video. I don't need the sound. There is no sound with any of this footage. It was all recorded without sound. I don't need those sound files that are just empty. So you'll see if I hover over these, drag audio only, drag video only, I'm gonna click and I'm gonna bring it down here and I'm gonna butt it up against. Now if I press play, it's gonna cut from this shot to my next shot, and then it's gonna keep going so forth, so forth. What I wanna do now is I wanna get a couple more clips on here, so I'm gonna do that. So I'm gonna watch this take here, I'm gonna scrub through, and I just want that kind of rack focus. So once again, I'm gonna set my in point, drag to where I want after the rack focus, set my out point, and then I'm going to do it a different way. So now what I can do, say that I want this to be right in between these two things, I can move my playhead down here on my timeline, and then I can press insert, and it's gonna pop it in and cut and move everything over. This is a very, very useful tool, especially if you have a lot of things that are on your timeline and you don't want to lasso around them and move them all over. I can literally just insert that down in there. Keep in mind that it is going to put the sound there unless you disconnected that beforehand or you only had the audio or only had the video playing. Let's keep those things in mind. But another way we can do that if we want to move over there is we can use this track forward tool. So if I click on that, whatever I click on that's to the right of where my playhead is, where my arrows are, I mean, not my playhead. So if I click here, it's gonna highlight everything to the right. If I'm gonna click here, it's gonna highlight everything to the right. And so keep that in mind, this is another tool. So if I wanted to move this over just a little bit so I can drop something else in, I'm gonna click and I'm gonna drag. And now I can go back to my A, which is going to be A for arrow. That's my shortcut. Make sure that that's your shortcut. It may not be. Now I can see this a little bit better. As the timelines get more and more elaborate and you have more sound files and you have more graphics and all these different things, keep that in mind because highlighting to the right or to the left and being able to do that. If you want to do to the left, you click on the little arrow and then you can go to backwards tool or forwards tool. But keep that in mind that we want to make sure we connect all of those things as you move over. And so I've had many students that don't move everything over and they think that they've gotten rid of sound that they haven't gotten rid of. And so keep that in mind that you want to highlight all those things and keep them moving. So now that we have this here, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna put a title on this and then we're gonna go through the exporting process. So once again, I wanna move this over a little bit. I'm gonna click everything and now I have it moved over. I'm gonna go up here to where this blue dot is for my workspaces and I'm going to go to caption and graphics. We're gonna use something that's pre-made, but you can do whatever you want. You could click on this text and you can type right on the screen, but we're gonna use one of these pre-made graphics just because they're a little bit easier, especially if you're starting out. You can also use Canva. I have my students do that a lot and you can go in there, you can make a graphic, you can export it out, you can bring it into the program. Make sure you're using PNG. Sometimes the JPEGs don't hold up as well, but once again, it's a learning curve. So I'm gonna have my title name here. I'm gonna bring this over here. Press spacebar, you're gonna see the animation that's happening. And so what I want to do now is I want to go in here. I'm going to go back to my editing tab now that I have it in there. And all I have to do is double click. So my title is going to be Test YouTube Tutorial. And I'm going to put my name down here. Well, I'm going to put the studio, Bronson Creative. And now if we go back, I press play. I'm going to use spacebar and Test Tutorial, Bronson Creative, and then it fades out as it's going. I don't like that it's that big. I want to make it a little bit smaller. So this is a little bonus for you if you're already feeling like I could learn a little bit more. So now that it's here, I'm going to go make sure I'm back in editing. I'm going to double click on my tab here. I don't need, and now I can go down here to my scale and I'm just going to move this to 80%. And then I'm going to watch it again. So it looks like, yeah, now it's not getting all the way to the edge here, which is what I wanted to do. So I can close out of my properties. I'm gonna use my track select to the right. I'm gonna back over here. And now you have two options. You can either make it over black or over the top of the video. So here we go, this is over black. All of your graphics that are pre-made in here are going to be on transparent backgrounds. So now if I bring this over and I move it back, there's another little shortcut. Now it's going to be on top of it. This would not be a really good one for being on top of it because it's white text on top of a background. Also, that's a crummy little camera shake. So let's go edit, let's undo, let's move this all back and get it out of here. So now we have this. One of the things that you want to keep in mind, put your name on it somewhere. Worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to put this on the internet, or you're going to put it somewhere, you made your best film and then you forgot to put your name on it. And if you've ever heard of some of the films that end up losing their copyright because they didn't put their copyright on it, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, we have a bunch of films that didn't use their copyright and then they've just been kind of sold out from under them, which is pretty messed up, but we'll talk about that at some point, I'm sure. So now I have my whole tutorial here. I can scrub through, make sure that I have all my clips, and I have my weird little film that's about 1.5 minutes. So now I'm gonna make sure that I have it highlighted with the blue line around it. Whatever you're on is what it's gonna try to export when we do this next process. So we're gonna go there, and then I'm gonna go to the export. So File, Export, and Media. So this is our exporting tab. We wanna give it a name, so I'm going to give it Bronson Test, and then I'm just going to give it today's date. So March 31st, so 3.31.25. If you wanted to give it a version number or anything like that, once again, keeping it as organized as possible is going to be great for you. That way you can find it in the future. I'm going to click on my location, and then I suggest that you save it wherever you were saving everything else. So with that being said, I'm going to go into here, I'm going to go in, boom, boom, and now here's my project files, and I'm going to make a new folder that's just called Exports. Once again, I'm very big proprietor on having everything organized. If not, it's just gonna drop it in this folder. It's gonna get clunky. The more you export, the bigger your projects get. Think about it building a house. You got a foundation. You wanna make sure that's secure. As you keep getting better and better at editing, you're gonna want to be able to have that available. So Bronson Test 331.25, I'm gonna press save. And then these are all called codecs. For the sake of conversation, because this is a beginning tutorial, I would just match the source, which is going to export it out at an adaptive high bit rate, so it's going to look good. It's going to tell you roughly what it was. This clip was about 1.2 gigs. We're going to have about 700 megabytes is going to be the final file. And so with that being said, we're going to have a pretty good resolution, especially for learning. But if you want to make it more high quality, you can use some of these presets. If you want a whole tutorial on codecs, let me know and I can export them out at 5 different rates, and that way you can see what's actually happening. Just drop that in the comments if that would be useful to your practice. Entire source, make sure that's on. If not, if you have one of these things, you're not gonna get your full video. And so without fail, I've had a lot of students that export it out and try to turn in an assignment and then it's just not there. It's only a 10-second video. So we'll look at that here in a second. So Bronson Test, experimental film, and we're going to export. Depending on how much is there, you'll see that this is going to take about 90 seconds. Depending on how much footage is there will dictate how long it's going to be. If you're making a feature, I've had it take upwards to a day to export it out in 4K, but the file is also like a terabyte when it's all done and said and done. So keep that in mind, that however big your files are is how long it's going to take. You can't speed this up. Just enjoy it. Go to the restroom, go get a coffee, go walk away. It's not that big a deal. It'll be over soon, I promise. So with 30 seconds left, here in a second where it's gonna pop up and we're gonna watch it. I always suggest that you watch it or at least scrub through it to make sure everything was in there. The worst thing is uploading it, doing all these things. It exported out fast, and the reason it exported out fast is because it exported out 30 seconds of the video. Take it from me, it happens more than you would think, and I've had it happen to me a lot of times, where you just are moving too fast and you don't have it. So now that it's exported out, boom, boom, it says right here, it was all there, experimental exports. And now what we're going to do is we're gonna go into the Finder and we're gonna just find that clip. So I'm gonna go back into here, I'm gonna go back into my YouTube, experimental film, my exports, and here we go. So now, Looks like it's 1 minute and 25 seconds. I press play. There it is, test YouTube tutorial, Bronson Creative. I scrub through it, make sure that I have all my clips in there. There they are. That's the end of my magnum opus. That's the end of the best film I'm gonna make. It's not gonna be, you're gonna make better films than this. But now that you're done, you can upload to YouTube, you can share with a friend, you can do whatever you want with it. So I hope this was helpful. Editing doesn't have to be hard, it really is 2 buttons. Once you get better, you're gonna learn more of the buttons, but you really only need the arrow and the blade, and you can be editing today. So, hope this was informative. When you make your film, please share it with me, like, subscribe, all those kind of things. Share it with a friend if this was helpful. We'll see you next time.